is for men and women, and it is for the youth, it is for everyone. So that is something that I want you to think about as we're moving through here to be part of the league. And I'm going to introduce now Lisa Thornhill, who is my co-president and part of the league and the sponsorship of this. So I thank you and welcome you all for being here today.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Thornhill. I'm co-president of the North Santa Barbara County League of Women Voters. And we're here tonight to give our community much needed information on our community itself around immigration and the Constitution. We are looking at 250 years since the Constitution was ratified, and the League has been in existence for 100 years. As Tracy pointed out, we register voters, but the other important part of our mission is to have informed voters. We like folks to go to the polls for candidates, measures, whatever we are considering, and to do it with as much information as possible. We are fortunate tonight to have a panel who is going to give us local information on immigration and how it relates to our Constitution. We're at a point where we really need to have this information reinforced and education a part of. We want to thank Hancock College for letting us use this wonderful room for the event. And tonight we have some folks helping us out with our activities. We have folks here to help us with interpreting. Jose Farias, if you need interpreting, he has the equipment available in the back of this front section, so please feel free to use it. And we also have been joined, this is exciting, by American Sign Language. So we are going to have Stephanie and Michelle? Julia help us out with sign language through tonight. And then we also will have available the recording of our forum. So we're looking forward to everybody's participation. We're going to start off with hearing from our panelists, and they will share about their position and the information that they have that correlates with immigration and our Constitution. We will have each person give 5-minute talk, and then we will have a 10-minute break where we can go out, and there is food in the lobby. But the important part is you've been hopefully given or have access to a card to fill out questions for our panelists. So the second part of our event will be asking questions and having a 2-minute talk back by our panelists. So with that, I am going to introduce our panelists, and they're lined up a little differently than my list, but we start with Jessica Scarffe, and she is professor of political science at Alan Hancock College. She is a constitutional expert. And then we have Luis Sanchez. He is the founder of the Madison Lincoln Initiative. He is a Central Coast attorney and educator. And then we have Michael Boyer. CEO of the Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce. And next we have Bianca Figueroa, U.S. Representative Salud Carvajal's Community Liaison. And then Alvaro Cortez, entrepreneur with OmniLife. And we will be receiving speaking in Spanish, and we'll have subtitles available on the screen. Next, we have Rosa Coronado. She is one of our league members. She is also a co-president of our immigration committee, and she teaches citizenship in our community locally for our Spanish-speaking community members. And she has graduated several classes of folks who have passed the citizenship classes and become citizens. So along with, yes. So along with the information, you will also hear about services available in our community. And again, the League wants to make sure everybody knows what's available and how to access community information. And then we will also have a DACA community member. It will be an anonymous speaker, audio only, and it will be a testimony regarding the DACA experience and how that status has impacted this person's life. So all of those will be impactful. And we will start with Jessica, who has 5 minutes to introduce and tell us a little bit about what you do and what we need to know.
Microphone. I usually just use my teacher voice. But Connor promised me he would modulate my volume for me. So welcome everybody, and first of all, a huge thanks to all of the sponsors who made this happen. Thank you. I'm happy to give up some of my 5 minutes to thank them for all a lot of hard work goes into this. And thank you to our community for turning out tonight. It says a lot about your commitment to each other. So thank you. I thought I would start, I'm really going to talk mostly about the United States Constitution. So my presentation is what I would describe as sort of the 30,000-foot level. I'm not really going to get into the weeds about the legal system or case law. Maybe that will happen in the Q&A, but I'm going to show some slides that are literally just pieces of the United States Constitution. And I'm going to try to tell you what page they're on in your pocket Constitution as we go along. And I just want the words to sit with us and maybe not go too quickly to what you've heard before or things like that. So with that fabulous introduction, I'm going to start with not the Constitution, but the Declaration of Independence. I've got the right slide up there. So this is actually page 35 of the Constitution, because they have the Declaration in the book after the Constitution, which is not the chronological order, but that's fine. So this is the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I wanted to start with that because it sets the stage for a philosophical jumping off point for this country. It's core to the principles of the founding of the United States. So I thought it was a good place to start. Now I will get into the United States Constitution, and I'm just going to start with the preamble. Again, setting the tone, this time for our governing document. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish the Constitution for the United States of America. So again, there are some interesting and important concepts embedded just in the preamble. And now I'm going to go to the first section of the Constitution, and without getting into too much of a lesson on the Constitution, the first article of the Constitution, Article 1, is about the legislative branch. Article 2 is about the executive branch, Article 3 is about the judicial branch, and the remaining 4, 5, 6, 7 deal with other aspects of the government that we won't cover today. But I thought I would start with Article 1. Again, this is the first article of the Constitution dealing with the powers of the legislative branch. And so Article 1, Section 8 is sort of a laundry list of those powers. And I just chose a couple of them. And the first one I chose is to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. And naturalization will get a lot more attention tonight by other panelists. And also to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for the execution of their powers. So that's the ability of Congress to do that. Article 1, Section 9, which is the next part of Article 1, talks about something called habeas corpus. And that is an old term that relates to one's ability to know the charges against them, why they are being detained, and so on. And so Article 1, Section 9 says, the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended. So one's rights to those things, unless in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. And the last one, people forget about this one a lot. It's called a Bill of Attainder. And I think I'm going to run out of time if I spend too much time on this one. But we might be able to come back to this. But no Bill of Attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. And this is also core to the origins of the Constitution and getting rid of a monarch, right? That's all related there. All right. I'm ready to move on. Where's my clicker? Messy Marvin here. Okay. There we go. The Fourth Amendment. This is one of my favorites, in part because I can tell my students that the people who wrote the Constitution didn't like punctuation either. It's a very long sentence. Anyway, I always start to write in short, choppy sentences. Anyway, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses. I always say I'd like to have a couple. I know it's plural, that would be nice. Papers and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Embedded in there, if it's not immediately obvious, and I apologize, I failed to give the page numbers on this. It's page 22 in the English version and 21 in the Spanish version. Embedded in the Fourth Amendment is the concept of checks and balances, the power of the judicial branch to balance the power of the executive branch. The Fifth Amendment, page 22, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. All right. Oh, I didn't get to the last one. That's all right. Sorry, folks, it's there for you. The 8th and the 4th. The 14th is really important. I hope we can come back to that one. Oh, Yeah, good? Okay. Eighth Amendment, no cruel and unusual punishment, right? So that's good. The 14th Amendment, this is super important. I emphasize this to my students. If I have any students in the house, I make a big deal out of this. All persons born or naturalized, and we're going to talk again about the naturalization process, in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. I'm getting to the kicker here, that's always the punchline. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. The 14th Amendment outlines the rights both of citizens and persons and uses those terms intentionally. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Luis Sanchez. Again, founder of the Madison Lincoln Initiative and Central Coast attorney and educator.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And what a great job my colleague, Professor Scarffe, did in covering some important parts. It's not, yeah, sorry, it's flipping on. Got it. Better? Okay, so what a great job my colleague, Professor Scarffe, did in covering some salient parts of the U.S. Constitution, which of course are highly relevant to the discussion we're having here. Let me just say at the outset what a pleasure it is to be back at Alan Hancock College, where I used to be the Vice President of Instruction maybe 10 or more years ago. So it's good to be here for a number of reasons, including reconnecting with my former colleagues and with some friends that I have out in the audience. And it just feels good to be here tonight on a very important topic to me and probably to all of us. It's also daunting, let me just say this, because for a number of reasons. The first one is we have a punctilious and highly conscientious timekeeper sitting right in front of me who's letting us know when we're going on too long, and I'm going to be in danger of that, I'm sure. So I'm going to speak a little faster than I normally do to try to make up, to try to atone a little bit, but it's going to be a challenge. It's also a daunting topic. I'm not an immigration lawyer. I've taken some immigration law classes to try to be helpful, and I volunteered in citizenship fairs to try to be helpful at this particular time. But I'm not an expert in immigration law, so I'll do my best to talk about the topics today, but there are people with far more expertise than mine. I would say that I am the son of first-generation immigrants, and so I've sort of lived some of the experience of immigrants to this country. We were fortunate that my mom was born in the United States as a total accident of history, so she had birthright citizenship inured in her favor, and I and my siblings, because we were born to a U.S. citizen, inherited that same privilege as well. But for the grace of God, we might have been not here legally. The concluding comment when I get to that part is going to be, as I talk a little bit about and I've been asked to talk about the relationship between federal law, state law, and local law. That's a highly sophisticated topic that could occupy several days of law school, and I'm going to do it a complete injustice by trying to accelerate through it. But let me just start off with the premise that although the immigration is one of those areas of jurisdiction that's been given in the U.S. Constitution to the federal government exclusively, there are a lot of ancillary topics around the field of immigration that are not immune from state governance, local governance, including counties, cities, and municipalities. I'll talk a little bit briefly about some of those practices to try to shed some light on the topic, but it is daunting. I've also been asked to talk about the difference between immigration courts and regular courts. So I've got a slide. I'm going to put it up there. I'm going to race through it because it's the least interesting part. But because I want to be conscientious, if Connor would help me. And this is not the right slide. Let's see if I can go back. Okay, so first of all, the immigration courts, and again, not my area of expertise, but they are administrative courts within the Department of Justice, as opposed to the county or the state courts that you might run into for the typical run-of-the-mill legal dispute. They adjudicate cases that involve non-citizens. They accept all credible evidence, and in the state courts or the federal courts, there are all these rules of evidence. You can't introduce hearsay evidence, or you have to have witnesses who can testify firsthand. That's not true in the immigration courts. You can bring in evidence if it seems plausible to the judge. And then lastly, the burden of proof lies with the non-citizen. So unlike the state courts where the burden of proof resides with the prosecution if it's a criminal case, with the plaintiff if it's a civil case, the immigration courts are different. And I'm going to race through one more slide because I want to talk then about the state, local, county regulation in the immigration arena. So let me go, I guess I want to go backwards here to that last slide before this. The difference between just criminal law and civil law, and you probably already know some of this, but in the criminal courts, the burden of proof is on the prosecution. So we all start off with the presumption of innocence, and the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that we are guilty of the crime we're being charged with. That is not the standard in the civil courts, where the plaintiff has the burden of proof in most cases, but it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, but to a lower standard by a preponderance of the evidence. In the criminal court, you have to, in order to be convicted, you have to have a unanimous verdict from the jury. And in a civil court, you don't need a unanimous verdict. It's typically a 2/3 requirement. In the criminal court, you have a privilege against self-incrimination. You don't need to take the stand. You don't need to testify. It usually cannot be held against you. In the civil court, you don't have the same privilege not to testify. And then lastly, of course, the penalties in the criminal court are that you can end up in prison, whereas in the civil court, it's typically a monetary fine that we're dealing with. So that's my apologies for racing through those slides, and now I want to get to the heart of the topic, which is the relationship of the state and local authorities to the federal authorities. I'm going to give you some examples of state laws that touch upon the immigration arena without usurping the power of the federal government. Now, I should also say that one of the reasons this is daunting is because it's a highly fluid state of the law. Well, every day as I read the newspapers and my wife and I talk about what's happening, she asks me, can they do that? And I say, no, of course they cannot do that, but they will do that. And unless the court intercedes and stops it, we see things happen that should not happen. So that's going to be true in everything that I say here today. I'll say some things and you'll think to yourself, but I know that didn't happen in this case. I know that the court either didn't intervene or did intervene in that case. And it's because we're living in a highly fluid time with the courts. The courts themselves are reacting differently to the political issues in front of them. Their administration, the federal administration, is much more aggressive in changing past practice than other times in history. And I'm being as moderate with my expressions as I can be. Here are some state laws that tread upon the periphery of the immigration arena. California Values Act, and these laws are either bills that have been passed by the legislature or are contemplated by the legislature or were passed but have not been enforced. But the California Values Act limits local law enforcement's cooperation with federal immigration authorities. That's Senate Bill 54. Also, employers are prohibited from allowing immigration agents into non-public areas of the workplace without a judicial warrant. That's AB 450. I know you're thinking, I've seen it actually happen, and that was not enforced. But as I disclaimed earlier, we're seeing sometimes a lack of enforcement of the laws that have passed. Laws that prohibit ICE from entering school campus without a warrant and that mandate notification to the parents. That's Assembly Bill 699 and Senate Bill 98. Laws that legislative, I can't even read my own handwriting. That's how bad my handwriting is. Recent legislation that immigration agents require immigration agents to identify themselves and bans them from wearing masks. And a judge enjoined that part of the law, but we're still seeing those laws tested in the courts. and laws that ban what are called 287G agreements, which require local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE, and state laws that prevent those kinds of agreements. And then land use controls. I'll talk about that briefly in a moment. So those are examples of state laws that bear upon the rights and the obligations of immigrants, even though the law of immigration generally resides in the federal arena. City and county, am I way past my time? Because if so, I'll wrap up. Okay, thank you. Some examples of city and county ordinances. There's many counties, especially in the Bay Area, have policies stronger than state law to prevent local resources from being used for federal civil immigration enforcement. Sonoma County is one example. Los Angeles County provides Know Your Rights workshops and resource fairs. The city of Linwood has a Values Act model which prevents collection and disclosure of sensitive personal information for immigration enforcement purposes. Chicago, Los Angeles, and Minneapolis ban ICE from municipal property. And Philadelphia, if you've heard him on social media, the Philadelphia district attorney has vowed to investigate and prosecute ICE agents for violating state and local laws. Now I've got my cue for time. So other possibilities for states that enable states, counties, local municipalities to help immigrants in a slightly less direct way. They can provide legal assistance. They can provide financial support like health care and college tuition. They don't always choose to do so, but they can. They can sue and prosecute federal agents who commit criminal acts or civil rights violations that are outside their duties. Even one example, and this is, I alluded to it earlier, of a city in Georgia, and Georgia has been a very red state historically, that cut off water supply to an ICE detention warehouse because of the inhumane practices that were taking place. So it's an instance of authority given to the city and that interferes with what ICE would like to do. So these are examples of city, county, and state rules that abridge what the federal government would otherwise want to do. My apologies for racing through this. I'm going to pass to our next esteemed speaker.
I can tell already we're having a lot of great information, so thank you. And now we'll hear from Michael Boyer, CEO of Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you so much. Okay. Good evening. It's great to be here. I'm the CEO and president of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm often asked to look at our community through a strategic lens. My background is 31 years in business operations and mergers and acquisitions. I'm really interested in the data. I'm not as interested in kind of the fluff. So when we talk about immigration in the Santa Maria Valley, we aren't just talking about a social issue. We're talking about an economic one. Our mission at the Chamber is to foster community resilience and economic vitality. To do that effectively, we must acknowledge a fundamental truth. Our immigrant community is the engine of our local economy. There are business owners, taxpayers, and workforce. So to talk a little bit about workforce. In business, our labor availability is the primary indicator of scalability. Currently, immigrants make up over 33% of the city of Santa Maria's residents, and 22% in the county of Santa Barbara. But more importantly, they're ready to work. The labor workforce participation is 67%, which is significantly higher than the 61% participation rate of native-born residents. Let's look at two sectors. The first is agriculture. This industry generates $2.7 billion in annual economic output. Immigrants account for 3/4 of all employment in that sector. Without them, the $87 million in taxes that this industry generates would simply vanish. Construction. This is a $1.2 billion industry in our county. Immigrants are twice as likely to work in construction compared to native-born residents. They are also 4 times as likely to fill the demanding maintenance roles that keep our infrastructure growing. Now, talking about innovation and entrepreneurship. Beyond providing labor, immigrants are job creators. Nationally, foreign-born residents are twice as likely to start a business than those born in the United States. In Santa Maria, we see this drive every day through our Hispanic Business Alliance and among our chamber members. From an innovation standpoint, the impact is even more staggering. Immigrants account for only 14% of the population, but they are responsible for 36% of the US patents. In my 30 years in technology, I've learned that innovation is the only way to stay ahead. If our region is to remain a leader in aerospace, agriculture, technology, and manufacturing, we must continue to innovate. The bottom line, there is a myth that immigration is a fiscal burden. The data says otherwise. Just the agriculture and construction industries alone, industries powered by our immigrant labor, contribute $103 million in annual taxes just in Santa Barbara County. At the Chamber, we believe in collective action. We accomplish more together than we do individually. As we look towards America's 250th anniversary, let's choose to view our immigrants as neighbors, not through a lens of scarcity, but as a high-performing asset that drives our community resilience and our economic vitality. Let's keep this engine running. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Bianca Figueroa, U.S. Representative Salud Carvajal's Community Liaison.
Thank you. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm a senior district representative and immigration liaison for Congressman Salud Carvajal. I have been doing this for 14 years. I know Congressman Carvajal hasn't been here for 14 years, but before that I was with Congresswoman Lois Capps and doing the same work with immigration casework as well. So I have a little bit of experience, and I went through the process too, so I know how important immigration legislations are in our community. Before I start my presentation, I want to make sure or do this disclaimer. This is not a legal counsel, a legal advice. If you need a legal advice, please check with your or consult with an attorney. And you can record this presentation, and you can take pictures of some of the slides. I was asked to talk about the legislation, or a very important legislation that is currently in the House of Representatives, and is the Dignity Act, that it was reintroduced 2 years ago. Do I have the right one? Yes. Yeah. So it was reintroduced 2 years ago by bipartisan members of Congress, one Republican and one Democrat. They're both supporting these bills, but not just them. 20 others, Democrats, members of Congress, and another 20 Democrats, Republicans and Democrats, half and half, literally 20 are supporting this bill. And it's currently referred to the Judiciary Committee and other several relevant committees. So it's going to take a while to get an answer or finish this, have the final vote. One of the benefits, people are worried about some of some of the things that are on this bill, but I'm just going to focus on the things that are good for our community. And this is one of them. It represents a legal status to protect undocumented immigrants already living in the United States, meaning they will get a work permit, and with that work permit is going to be valid to re-enter the country. So they can go back to the country, visit their family members, and return without any issues. So that's a big step for them. Even though it doesn't give you citizenship path, it's a relief, temporary relief. And maybe in the future, in the next Congress, things can change and amendments can happen to this bill. So I know a lot of you are not going to like a lot of stuff, but there's good stuff on this bill. And there's a lot of support as well, bipartisan. Another good thing about this bill is that it provides a pathway to citizenship to dreamers, to those DACA recipients that are very crucial to our community. We know that there are a lot of hundreds, thousands of DACA recipients that are in the limbo. And the limbo because a work permit is not, just a work permit is not, it's a legal status, but it's not residency. It's not permanent residency. It doesn't give you legal, it doesn't give you path to receive citizenship. But with this bill, it does have the goal for them to become a permanent residents and then U.S. citizens. If you want to check more on this bill, the Dignity Act 2020, you can go to congress.gov or our website, carvajal.house.gov. You can also find all the immigration legislations that Congressman is supporting. The next one is, okay, so before they asked me to talk about how to become a U.S. citizen. Before getting your citizenship, you need to be a legal permanent residence first. So there's 10 other ways to get your green card. And I'm just gonna talk about really quick about few because we don't have enough time. But before you apply for citizenship, you need to have your green card. And to apply for a green card or legal permanent resident status, you need to be one of these. And these are the most common ones, the family-based adjustment of status. So a spouse of a U.S. citizen, unmarried children under 21 of a U.S. citizen, parent of a U.S. citizen, they have to be 21 years and older. And this one forgives many overstays. For example, many families came to this country without a valid visa, and once the children become 21, they're not able to adjust their status in the United States to their parents because they have to ask for waivers. So this is one of the things. But if you do come here with a visa, then you can do it in the United States. There are other ways as well. Married children of U.S. citizens, siblings of U.S. citizens, spouses and children of the green card holders. This is a longer process for them because there's a visa bulletin through the Department of State that they have to wait in line, which is a little long. For Mexico, China, and India, it could be up to 20 years long. The other paths for green card, to receive a green card is through special humanitarian programs, special categories, and diversity visas. The special humanitarian programs, we hear it a lot with visas for people that are victims of certain crimes or human trafficking or they have been victims of abuse. So once you have your green card, once you go through the process with legal permanent resident status, you can apply for citizenship. And I'll tell you a little bit about the benefits. Before the benefits, I'll tell you a little bit about how to apply. But the benefits, there are several benefits of becoming a U.S. citizen. And these are the top 5 ones. The main one is to stop deportation. So if you are a U.S. citizen, nobody can deport you. You can go back and live to another country and come back happily without any issues because you are a U.S. citizen. The second one is, I can see it on my, on my here. The second one is you can, as I said before, you can bring family members and petition them, and so they can adjust their status in the United States, or they can have green cards in the United States. The third one is very important because it's coming pretty soon. Vote for an election. You can vote as a U.S. citizen. As a permanent resident, you cannot vote. As a U.S. citizen, yes, you can. The next one is, which one? You can apply for a government job and get better retirement benefits. As a resident, you don't get that many benefits. As a U.S. citizen, you do. Also apply for federal scholarships and other federal programs. And one of the good things also, or benefits, is you can travel to 128 countries with the blue passport without using a visa. So that's an advantage. So yeah, those are the main ones. Also, you can run for an office, like Congressman Salud Carvajal. He's originally from Mexico, but he became a U.S. citizen, and he ran for office. You can run for an office too if you're a U.S. citizen. Or serve as a jury member. So I'm going to talk really quick about the requirements because we don't have a lot of time. You need to be 18 years and older, have 5 years with your green card, legal permanent resident, 5 years, or been married with a U.S. citizen for 3 years, live in the same residence or state for at least physically 3 months, and have good moral character, and be able to read, write, and speak English, and have a knowledge of the civic historic test. And there's, as I say, there's more information about the citizenship. Rosa's going to talk about that because she also helps people do the process or apply for citizenship, and she can help them, and also she can help you study for the test. There are a lot of benefits. If you don't have the resources financially, you can ask for a fee waiver, or you can ask for a reduced fee. You can apply, the total process fee is $7.15 if you mail it, or $7.15 if you do it online, which is much better. I highly recommend it. Or if you mail it, it's going to be $125. And the process is about 6 months. We haven't seen any delays lately. There was delays before, but now they're processing them really fast. And now the advantage is that you can do it right after you do your interview. If you don't change your name legally, you do the oath ceremony on the same day you do your test. So that's an advantage. As I said, you can do it online. USCIS.gov/N400. If you create an account, you can submit all the documents and fill out the form. It's really easy. If you have some questions, or if you have some concerns about child support or DUIs, you make sure you consult with an attorney, because it's very important that you talk to someone, a legal counsel, before you apply if you feel you have some issues in the past, at least in the last 5 years. At least the San Fernando field office, USCIS, they only check the last 5 years. Other states, they're not that good at that. They can, if you have anything from 20 years, you can get in trouble. But in California, or at least in the Central Coast, our jurisdiction for USCIS, they only overlook for the last 5 years to be completely without any issues. So once you apply for the citizenship, you receive your certificate of naturalization. Once you receive your certificate of naturalization on the same day that you do the test, then you can apply for the blue passport, for the US passport. And you can also report it to the Social Security, so when you retire, you can get more benefits. And there are more things that you can do. Register to vote. It's very important. And you can also submit the I-130 form, so you can bring family members from other countries. But if you have any questions, you can call our office, and you can take a picture of this one. Where is it? Oh, sorry, it went way too far. We don't have time for the rest of the presentation, but sorry, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now we are going to hear from Alvaro Cortez, naturalized citizen. He's going to share his experience, and Rosa Coronado will assist with interpreting for us.
Hola, buenas tardes. Gracias por la invitación. Mi nombre es Álvaro Cortés. Yo nací en 1963, cuando aún era muy joven. La vida me llevó hacia el norte, aquí en California, en 1980. Entré por primera vez a los campos agrícolas. No lo sabía entonces, pero esas largas hileras de fresas, tomates, uvas y duraznos serían el lugar donde realmente comencé mi historia. Los campos eran duros, pero también sinceros. Me enseñaron a soportar las mañanas frías, las tardes ardientes, a seguir adelante. Aún me dolieron las manos al encontrar dignidad en cada empeño y logro de esos primeros años. Me formaron más que en cualquier salón de clases. Con el tiempo mi vida empezó a cambiar, al principio lentamente y luego del golpe hubo un momento en que todo dio un giro casi a 180 grados. Comenzaron a abrirse oportunidades que nunca imaginé. En 2014 me convertí en ciudadano de los Estados Unidos gracias a este gran país. El día se sintió como entrar a una habitación llena de luz. De ser ciudadano no solo me dio un documento, me dio un sentido, pertenencia, una voz, un gran futuro. Por fin podía reclamar lo mío. Que lo importante es, al ser ciudadano, es votar, que eso cuenta mucho para la superación de este gran país y elegir nuestros servidores públicos o servidores de la nación. No pasó mucho tiempo antes de que entrara al mundo del emprendimiento. A través de mi compañía Omilay, tomé esa decisión, se transformó mi vida de manera que jamás hubiera podido prever. Me permitió crecer, tener éxito e incluso viajar por el mundo visitando países. Antes solo veía en revistas y escuchaba mencionar cada viaje. Era un recordatorio de los lejos que había llegado. Desde aquellas madrugadas en los campos, hoy me veo a mí mismo como una prueba viviente que la transformación es posible cuando una persona se convierte en ciudadano y abre puertas hacia oportunidades de crecimiento y sueños que antes parecían incansables. Yo soy un testigo de esa verdad, soy un recordatorio de que la perseverancia puede escribir una vida, y así como me sucedió a mí, también puede sucederles a cada uno de ustedes. Sus metas están al alcance de su historia y aún está escribiendo. Gracias. Le doy gracias a mi maestra, porque ella fue que me apoyó mucho, me enseñó mis principios, y ahora le doy gracias a ella porque es buena persona. Cada persona que vaya con ella va a aprender y va a lograr sus metas. Muchas gracias.
Okay, ahora I'm going to translate what he says in English. He says, I was born in 1963, and when I was still very young, life carried me north to California. In 1980, I stepped into the agricultural fields for the first time. I didn't know it then, but those long rows of strawberries, tomatoes, grapes, peaches became the place where my story truly began. The fields were harsh, but they were also honest. They taught me how to endure cold mornings and burning afternoons, how to keep going even my hands ached, and how to find dignity in every small accomplishment. Those early years shaped me more than any classroom ever could. With time, my life began to shift, slowly at first, then all at once. There came a moment when everything turned almost a full 80, 100 degrees. Opportunities I had never imagined began to open. In 1914, I became a citizen of the United States. That day felt like stepping into a new room filled with light. Becoming a citizen didn't just give me a document, it gave me the sense of belonging, a voice in the future I could finally claim as my own. No longer after I entered the world of internship through my company, OmniLife. That decision changed that direction of my life in ways I could never have predicted. It allowed me to grow, to succeed, and eventually to travel the world, visiting countries that I once only saw in magazines or heard about it, conversations. Each trip felt like a reminder of how far I had come from those early mornings in the fields. Today, I see myself as living proof that transformation is possible. When someone becomes a citizen, doors open, doors to opportunity to grow, to dream that once felt unreachable. I am a witness that truth. I am a reminder that perseverance and reward of life. It just happened to me. It can happen to you. Your goals are within reach. Your story is still unfold. Thank you, and thank you.
He also thanked her. He also thanked the teacher, Rosa, because he was saying that she was a really good teacher and that he learned a lot, and thanks to her, he became a U.S. citizen because he couldn't learn easily, and he was able to learn from you. So he's very thankful to you.
Thank you. And now we are going to hear from a DACA community member. It will be audio only, so that this will be the last piece prior to intermission. So please have your questions written out for us so we can get started on the second part of our program.
Good evening. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here today to share my life experience as a DACA recipient. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters, Alan Hancock College, the interpreters, the panelists, and everyone who made this event possible. With that being said, I'll go ahead and jump into my story. I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, and brought to the United States as an infant. I was 11 months old, to be specific. My parents did seasonal work, and I was raised in the beautiful Eastern Sierras, right behind the Yosemite Mountains, in a campground, where my mom was a housekeeper and my dad was a line cook. My parents continue to reside there. For much of my childhood, I didn't fully feel the impacts of being undocumented. That changed when my friends started getting their driver's license and applying to college. I soon learned what it meant, though. I couldn't apply for a driver's license, and I wasn't eligible for financial aid. Regardless, in the spring of 2011, I applied to California State University, Northridge, to pursue a degree in deaf studies. I had been fascinated with sign language since I was a child. After seeing the alphabet in a 17 magazine and watching a neighbor lose his hearing due to type 1 diabetes. At the time, DACA did not exist yet. So I applied to college not knowing if I would ever be able to use my degree. In 2012, when DACA was enacted under the Obama administration, I applied and it was approved. I was 20 years old, and it was one of the most life-changing and grateful moments of my life. Even with AB 540, which allowed me to pay in-state tuition, college was still expensive for my family. especially when you consider housing and living costs. That same year, my childhood best friend and I moved to Nipomo, and I enrolled at Cuesta College to offset some of the costs for my family. Thanks to the BOG waiver, now known as the Promise, or Cuesta Promise, I was able to continue my education while staying on track with my ASL coursework, which was a key component of my degree in deaf studies. But during that time, I made a mistake. At the end of the 2012-2013 school year, I was pulled over and charged with a DUI. I had been out with friends in downtown San Luis Obispo and felt fine, but the breathalyzer said otherwise. That decision cost me my driver's license, strained my relationship with my family and friends, and ultimately led to the loss of my DACA. When I submitted my renewal, I already knew the outcome. A few weeks later, I received my denial letter. To say I was devastated is an understatement. I felt guilty, I felt shame. Later that fall, I returned to California State University, Northridge to continue my education, undocumented again. My family never gave up on me, neither did I. In 2015, I heard about a free immigration consultation happening on campus, and I went with one simple question. If I expunge this from my record, can I reapply for DACA? The answer was yes. The very next day, I called the San Luis Obispo County Court to request a court date. Months later, I pled my case to the judge with the support of my public attorney. I went there again with a similar question. Could they potentially expunge my record so I could have a chance to reapply? After a long pause in that session, the district attorney granted my request. It took time to gather the right paperwork before I could reapply again for the program. In 2017, I graduated from CSUN with my bachelor's degree in deaf studies, still undocumented at the time. That fall, I traveled to Washington, D.C. to lobby for DACA at Capitol Hill. I wanted to put a face to this program and highlight the importance of the program as the program was being threatened once again. In 2018, my DACA was approved again. I later moved to San Francisco to work at a middle school before returning to the Central Coast, where I reconnected with someone who is now my fiance. I began working for a nonprofit in Guadalupe, and I now oversee a family resource centers and multiple community programs. Through this work, I've had the privilege of supporting hundreds of families and serving on community boards, including the League of Women Voters. In 2023, I earned my master's in public health with a focus in community health education, but even then, the uncertainty of DACA continued. Less than 30 days after graduating, there was a delay in my renewal, and I lost my job. That experience had both financial and emotional impacts on me and those around me. 5 weeks later, my DACA was approved and I was able to return to work. Earlier this very year, I went through a similar experience, but this time my renewal was approved just 2 days before it expired. I felt grateful, but the anxiety never really went away. Today, I'm happy to share that I'll be getting married this June, and I've recently become a part-time faculty at Alan Hancock, where I'll be teaching a citizenship class in the fall. In addition to continuing my work in the community of Guadalupe that I love so much, I encourage you all to believe in yourselves, surround yourselves with people who believe in you, and advocate for yourself. Remember that sometimes one question, one conversation can completely change your circumstances. Thank you.